Welcome to the Build on Beauty podcast, where beauty is born skin deep. Now, here's your host, author, speaker, entrepreneur, Cornell Jermaine.
Hey, thank you so much for joining me today. Happy to be with you guys. We are approaching one of my favorite seasons and one of many people's favorite seasons, and that is spring. I think spring is actually this weekend, the 13th. We're going into daylight savings, and I wanted to just chime in and share a little bit with you guys. And first of all, appreciate you guys for hanging in there with us at the Build on Beauty podcast. We really are excited how we are growing and people are just being informed and enlightened and inspired by all the content and the things that we are sharing on this podcast. So I appreciate it. We appreciate it, me and my entire team. So I wanted to chime in and say that, but I also wanted to just encourage you in this spring season to just spring forth in life. You know, sometimes we have to get a little push and get a little fire lit under us in order to take on some of the things that we so desperately desire, but sometimes fear the most. You know, as I look into this season called spring and what it brings all of of course, the beautiful buds of different flowers and trees and all of that stuff. But it in essence, what it is bringing, it's bringing change. It's bringing a maturation process in the environment that we live in. You know, spring is a result of pretty much the axis of the earth increasing its tilt, and as a result, the length of daylight is rapidly increases, and warmth significantly begins to take on our environment. You know, things that were once cold begin to warm up, you know, and snow is melting, the ice is evaporating, and all of a sudden we're in the midst of such beautiful nature and trees and budding tulips and all of those things, you know, the things that we often take for granted when it's here. But, you know, when we're coming out of feet of snow and 2-3 feet of snow and all that kind of stuff, and clouds of white across our pavements, you know, when you're breaking into that new season, you're springing forth, you know, you really appreciate the landscape and the greenness of the grass and the height and the beauty of the trees. You know, you tend to, at least I do, you know, I don't know, I can't speak for everyone, but at least I do. I tend to take a greater appreciation for this season called spring, you know, but we should not just be seeing spring just in our environment and around us, but we should be seeing spring in our life, in our individual life. You know, I think, you know, not just thinking about the climate that we're in, but in the season that we're in, just in our day and age, but just in life in general. It's about that time that we spring and forth in our life. You know, don't allow things to change and you not be a part of it. You know, don't let the season change and you not participate. You know, as the trees are budding and the tulips are stretching out and blooming, so should we. You know, so should we be stretching out, blooming, and maturing, growing, evolving. You know, it's time to take on some of the things that we've put on the back burner. It's time to embrace some of the gifts and talents that we have so horribly discredited and ignored. You know, it's terrible to see such a something with so much potential sit dormant. You know, if you know what I mean, if you're paying attention to nature as I do, you know what I mean when I say that. Have you ever seen a tree that's dead? You know, the roots are dead. You know, and no matter how much spring comes and how many times spring comes around, that tree just never buds. You know, it has no life in it anymore. It's just a big, tall piece of wood. You know what I'm saying? That if you don't take care of it, will potentially fall and cause a lot of damage. But the tree in and of itself, you know, the environment has no effect on it. You know what I'm saying? The environment it's not adjusting itself to the surroundings. You know, it's not making the changes it needs to make, you know, when the seasons are changing. You know, it's not adjusting. And so many of us are in that position where we are things are growing around us and blooming and looking green and vibrant, and we're standing tall, but we're standing tall dormant. We're standing tall without the bud and the fruit of what it is that we've been called to render. The Word of God teaches us that He has called us and ordained us that we should bring forth fruit, and that fruit should remain. That means that every time spring comes forth, every time summer comes, there should be some buds on your tree. There should be some fruit beginning to grow on your tree. That way, when harvest time comes, you have something to offer. You have something to offer someone when it's time to harvest. You're not just a big piece of wood that has been dried out and is potentially dangerous or hazardous to the environment around you. That's what happens when we don't embrace spring and we don't embrace the things that have been put in us, the gifts that are lying dormant. Timothy talked about that. Paul talked about that with Timothy. He said, stir up the gift that is within you. And he said, and stir it up so that it can bring forth life, that it can begin to show forth the goodness of our God, and that's the same way with us today. We should be stirring up the gifts that are inside of us, because when they lie dormant, all we do is we become an eyesore. We become a hazard. We become an environmental an environmental danger, because things that are around us now are beginning to be affected by our lack, by our lack of willingness, our lack of determination, our lack of discipline, our lack of self-love and self enlightenment. There are things that we probably will never understand as it pertains to our lives individually. However, there's one thing that we can understand and that we can embrace, and that thing is that we all have been called to do something. We all have been called to contribute something to this thing called life. We have not been born in this life for naught. There is something that we are supposed to do. There is something that we have been charged with. There is a mandate, a mission upon our lives, both individually and collectively. And it is our responsibility to make sure that mandate and make sure that mission is accomplished. You get what I'm saying? It is our responsibility to do that. And I think so many times we put the responsibility on the environment around us, the tree next to us, the flowers beneath us, the grass below us, our mom, our dads, our sisters and brothers, our teacher, our counselor, or whoever didn't, our husband or wife. We put so much of the responsibility on others, and we project that on them, not really realizing that, it is not up to them to do what you have been called to do. It is up to you to do what you have been called to do. And that doesn't mean taking on the world. That doesn't mean being Superwoman and Superman. So many times when we embrace this thing called living purposefully and exercising our gifts, we oftentimes get this big picture of being Superman, Clark Kent, putting on the garments and saving the day all the time. And that's not always the picture that needs to be seen, because everybody's not called to be Clark Kent. Everybody's not called to be Superwoman. Everybody's not called to be this big, huge hero that we oftentimes fixate our minds on, when we think of fulfilling purpose. Some of us are called just to be the undergirders. Some of us are called to be the armor bearers. Some of us are called to be the prayer warriors and the supporters, both spiritually, financially, emotionally. That's some of us are called to do that, and it's okay. It's okay to be that, because your role is very significant. Your role is very significant in that individual or that organization or the group of people that you have been called to, because without you, they would not have support. You get what I'm saying? When a house is built, it's not built just in thin air. There has to be a foundation and a support laid, and the support and the foundation that is laid as it pertains to us as humans is those people that have been crowded around us, those people that have been serving us and watching out for us and praying for us and looking out for us in so many areas, in so many ways. Those people are significant in the life of those who are called to be the Clark Kents and the Supermomans and the heroes of our day or of our industry. You get what I'm saying? There are people who have big mandates and big missions, as it pertains to the mass amount of people or the mass amount of individuals that we have been called to, but that does not make insignificant those who have been called to serve one person, or those who have been called to serve 2 or 3 people, those who have been called just to serve the block that they live on. Though that doesn't make it insignificant. And so many of us out here, we want to discredit and diminish the role that many people play, because they are not on some grand stage or some huge platform. That a huge platform does not make you great. What makes you great is your ability to serve. What makes you great is your ability to see inside of someone and see the greatness and pull that greatness out. What makes you great is your ability to take your own life and use it to the benefit of another's. That's what makes you great. So as we enter this new season that I know all of us are just so excited about, because spring is something that should bring excitement. If you're not excited with the sun shining and with the tulips blooming and the grass getting green and the trees getting some buds on them, if you're not excited about that, then I think that you need to seek a little more help than you probably have been, because nothing is more happy. I don't care what's going on in people's lives. It's something about the sunshine and the beautiful landscape that just brings a smile on people's face. I don't care what the issues are. And it's something about that just makes people just want to smile. You know what I'm saying? And I think if you just learn how to do that and embrace the season that you're in and spring out of that dead stuff, spring out of the dirt and all of the drama and garbage of the everyday life, spring into something new, spring into something that is amazing, something great. Tilt your axis a little, tilt your axis a little and change so that the sun, the SON, can begin to shine bright in your life. As we embrace the SUN, the sun, we want to also embrace the SON, the sun, and embracing the SON, the son, the only begotten one of our God, our Father. We're also embracing the things that he's put inside us, the mandate, the mission, the giftings, the uniqueness that he's put inside us. We're also embracing that. So I just want to encourage you real quickly to spring forth, tilt your axis and change and adjust, because the season that we're in is a season of new life, of new beginnings, of new opportunities. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Build on Beauty podcast. I'm your host, Cornell Jermaine. This is where beauty is born skin deep. Until next time, let your soul be made whole. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Build on Beauty podcast. For more information about our host, please visit CornellJermaine.com.